Darkness surrounds the final resting place of the Edmund Fitzgerald. Broken into two large pieces, its hull is twisted and torn, with only its front half sitting proudly upright. The Edmund Fitzgerald was once the largest ship on the Great Lakes. That distinction may have set cargo hauling records, but it also may have jinxed the vessel. Like the Titanic, no one thought the Fitzgerald could be sunk. The mighty Fitz met its match in a strong November gale in 1975. Many people believe the ship was overloaded, carrying several tons of iron ore beyond what she was originally built for. Built in 1957, the Fitz was nearly 2 decades old, and most ships that old were carrying less, not more. Loaded with over 26,000 tons of ore, the Fitz found herself in a bad situation just north of Whitefish Point, where she vanished from radar after telling the freighter Arthur Anderson that they were holding their own in the storm. 2 lifeboats and some small wreckage was all that was ever found from the Fitz. Not a trace of her 29 crewmen were ever found, until 19 years later.
There's absolutely no way that could be anything else but the Fitzgerald.
Fred Shannon has been studying the Fitz for over a decade, and while he's regarded as the foremost expert on the subject, he still hadn't seen the wreck himself. Resting in Canadian water, it would take Shannon 2 years and thousands of dollars just to get access to the wreck. The Edmund Fitzgerald has been visited by 5 different expeditions. 2 were by unmanned robots, and 3 more were by manned submersibles. The reason that divers don't visit this wreck is because it's extremely deep. Most divers only go to about 130 feet. Fitzgerald is in 500 feet of water, and to get an idea of how deep that is, 500 feet is from the tip of the Mackinac Bridge all the way down to the waters of the Straits of Mackinac. This plunge into Lake Superior was actually Delta's freshwater baptism. The little yellow sub has been in oceans around the world, but today was her first mission in the Great Lakes. Delta is a research submarine that normally helps scientists understand undersea life. Delta isn't as large or as equipped as many of its competitors, but they've surprised a lot of people as to what they can do.
To get the mission done, we don't have a lot of bells and whistles, and we're not that glamorous, and we tend to try to be low-key and please our clients and get down, get the job done, and do a lot of diving.
Kind of the sports car of subs, I think. It's small and it's fast, and it turns quick, maneuvers real well.
Do you even keep track of how many trips you've made in this yet?
Me personally?
Yeah.
I lost count at 700. It's closing in on 1,000.
Sub drivers are called pilots because they fly through the water. Delta can only carry 2 people, so the pilots rotate after every mission. Rounding out the team is Jerry Brown. He tracks the sub and maintains communications through a hydrophone.
Roger.
Delta can dive below 1,000 feet, so the 500-foot depth of the Fitzgerald was no problem. Difficulties exist in the condition of the wreck.
I always feel safe as far as the integrity of the sub is. The sub dives at 1,200 feet, and I have no apprehensions about the sub ever failing. The problem is you have to be careful about what's down on the bottom, and namely fishing nets, lines, things like that you can get caught on.
Okay, it's clear to surface.
Delta made several trips for Expedition 94, recording nearly 14 hours of video and taking several hundred pictures with her side-mounted cameras. She was also instrumental in marking the sailor's gravesite with a plaque, forever remembering the 29 men who lost their lives when the Fitz sank. Seeing the Fitzgerald firsthand was an important part of Shannon's investigation on the maritime disaster, but Fred's first voyage to the bottom wasn't all research. He also set out to beat the unofficial dive record, visiting the wreck site.
Roger that. Congratulations, Fred. You beat the record. Whenever you're ready to ascend, you're clear.
Shannon would stay at the bottom for a record 3.5 hours, an incredibly long visit for Fred, but an even longer wait for his wife, Betty. In all, 7 voyages were made to the Edmund Fitzgerald, recording 14 hours of new footage and nearly 1,000 new still pictures.
Now we're still hyped. We have to let it ride down a little bit and let it sit on it a little bit and start to put all this information together. There's so much information that it's going to take longer than what I expected, but we will have it put together. We will take the video films and the still photography on to other experts in maritime engineering and let them make a determination on some of the factors that are far above my expertise.
Experts will also have a new clue to help solve the question of what happened. The team was moving towards the bow of the wreckage when they called to the surface with the news. They had found one of the 29 missing men.
That is unbelievable.
It's unbelievable because we had already sent 3 crews into that area, and because the pilot house and bow had been extensively photographed by 4 other expeditions.
Of course, this put a completely different twist to our investigation of the Fitzgerald, and the project itself took on a different flavor.
That different flavor left a bad taste with many of the team members, especially since we had met the family of one of the crew members just the day before at a memorial service for Fitzgerald's crew. It was decided that we would contact authorities and continue diving.
We, first of all, honored the area that the body was found by marking it, making a location check, and then not returning to that area to leave it undisturbed.
The discovery didn't seem to bother the submariners, which included teenager Scott Purvis.
So quiet and dark down there. It reminds me of a church, is knowing that God's down there.
The body was videotaped and was shown to Canadian authorities, but it's not likely to solve all of the questions behind the sinking of the 729-foot freighter.
I don't think it helps clean up any of the mysteries or that. It probably brings back more sorrow than I think anything else.
The discovery did make international headlines, which caught the attention of former Fitzgerald cook Red Bergner. His story of why the ship sank and why he was spared will again create controversy when Fred Shannon's documentary is released this fall. A book is also in the works, which will include 7 new underwater drawings by maritime artist Jim Clary. He signed an exclusive agreement with Shannon and will release paintings of the shipwreck later this year. Another exclusive will be new computer renderings on how the ship sank. Over 500 hours have been spent building a computer simulation of the Edmund Fitzgerald, which will relive many of the theories behind her sinking. And new music is being written to reflect the new findings, with several new tribute songs from Michigan folk singer Dan Hall.
She was there at the dock when the lines cast off and the Fitz got underway. The sun shone down as the wake trailed out on that cold November day. When she wrapped her cloak over ship and crew, when the winds began to roar, every man aboard tightened down their souls, far from the Michigan shore.
Fred and his wife had given up their dream home to pay for the $70,000 expedition. Both had a chance to visit the wreck personally, and neither regretted their decision.
The very minute that I saw the Fitzgerald, I knew it was worth it. It was worth everything that I put into it, all the aches and pains, all the sleepless nights, all the migraine headaches, the doubts, the animosities, even the joys at times. Everything was worth it within the first minute that I was on site and looking at the Edmund Fitzgerald.
The story of the Fitz continues to make headlines even today, especially since a lawsuit was announced blocking the removal of the ship's bell for display in an Upper Peninsula museum. Surviving family members support the recovery, which will be used in memorial services. Shannon maintains that nothing should be removed, and the ship shouldn't be damaged by any salvage attempt. His lawsuit will also determine if the Fitz is indeed in Canadian waters. He says a new satellite survey moves the boundary line right over the wreck site. Fred Shannon's study of the Edmund Fitzgerald has cost him over $100,000, but he's followed his dream and did what few thought he could. His adventure, a story of what some call the American dream, will be released this fall. This is Rick Mixter.